The espresso machine hissed like a dying starship engine, and Kira Valdez tried not to flinch. 5 years of serving overpriced coffee to cocky pilots on Luna Station, and she still couldn't handle that sound. The irony wasn't lost on her. She used to fly ships that made noises 1,000 times worse. "Double shot, extra foam, hold the judgment," ordered Captain Rex Donovan, sliding his credit chip across the counter with the kind of swagger that screamed, "I've never had my ship shot out from under me." His flight suit was pristine, regulation patches perfectly aligned. Kira wanted to laugh, or maybe throw hot coffee at him. "Coming right up, hotshot." She turned to the machine, letting her dark hair fall across her face. 5 years, and she still expected someone to recognize her. To point and shout, "Hey, aren't you Kira Valdez? The pilot who?" But they never did. Dead pilots don't serve coffee. The cafe she'd built in the old cargo bay of Luna Station's civilian sector was deliberately unremarkable. Mismatched furniture, terrible lighting, and prices just high enough to keep the riffraff away but not so high that people asked questions. The perfect hiding spot for someone who didn't want to be found. "You know," Rex said, leaning against the counter, "I could get you clearance to watch the launches from the observation deck. Most civvies never get to see real ships take off." Kira's hand tightened on the espresso cup. If only he knew she'd logged more flight hours than half the hotshots on this station combined. "Thanks, but I prefer keeping my feet on solid ground." The lie tasted bitter. She missed the black more than she'd ever admit, missed the way space stretched infinite in every direction, missed the gentle hum of engines perfectly tuned, missed the moment when you hit the jump coordinates and reality folded like origami around you. Rex was about to launch into what was probably his standard, "Let me show you the stars" pickup line when every screen in the cafe flickered to red. The station's emergency tone echoed through the corridors, followed by Commander Walsh's voice over the intercom. "All personnel to emergency stations. We have multiple unidentified vessels approaching Luna Station. This is not a drill." Through the cafe's small viewport, Kira could see them, sleek shapes that didn't match any human design she knew. They moved like living things, flowing rather than flying, their hulls shifting between colors that hurt to look at directly. Rex had gone pale. "I've got to report to my ship." "Yeah, you do that." Kira watched him stumble out, coffee forgotten. Around the station, she could hear the organized chaos of an emergency response, boots running, orders being shouted, the whine of defensive systems powering up. But the alien ships weren't attacking. They hung at the edge of the station's defensive perimeter like they were waiting for something. Or someone. Kira's tablet chimed with an emergency bulletin. The alien vessels were broadcasting on all frequencies, but it wasn't a message. It was a pilot certification code. An old one. The kind they'd used during the border wars before the corporations had standardized everything. Her blood went cold. She knew that code. It was hers. The tablet slipped from her numb fingers, clattering to the floor. On the screen, the alien broadcast repeated, "Pilot certification 7749, Delta, Kilo, Victor." The call sign she'd retired 5 years ago when half her squadron had been vaporized in the Titan Nebula. When she'd been the only one to come home. "No," she whispered to the empty cafe. "I'm done with that. I'm done." But the aliens kept broadcasting her old call sign, patient as death, and Kira knew with sick certainty that her 5 years of hiding were over. 20 minutes later, Kira stood in Luna Station's command center, feeling like she was wearing someone else's skin. Commander Walsh, a man who'd never seen real combat but loved military protocol, was having what could charitably be called a breakdown. "You're telling me," he said, voice climbing toward hysteria, "that our mystery aliens are specifically asking for a dead pilot who's been serving coffee in my station for 5 years?" "I prefer presumed dead," Kira said, checking the neural interface headset she hadn't worn in half a decade. Her hands remembered the weight of it, the way the connection ports lined up with the implants behind her ears. "And technically, I've been serving excellent coffee." The alien ships had moved closer, still maintaining that eerie formation. Now that she could see them clearly on the tactical display, Kira realized they weren't ships at all, they were alive. Bioships, grown rather than built, their hulls rippling with what looked like nervous system patterns. What do they want? Walsh demanded. Only one way to find out. Kira gestured to the small civilian transport in the launch bay. I'll need that ship, and I'll need everyone to stay back until I figure out what's happening. Absolutely not. I'm not sending a civilian. Commander. Kira's voice carried the kind of authority that came from having people's lives in your hands. I'm the only pilot on this station who's actually fought in the border wars. These aliens didn't show up here by accident, and they're not talking to anyone but me. So either you let me do this, or we all sit here and wait to see what happens when they get impatient. 5 minutes later, she was in the pilot's seat of the transport, neural interfaces humming as they synced with her brain. The sensation was like coming home and falling off a cliff at the same time. Her hands moved across the controls without conscious thought, muscle memory 5 years dormant suddenly blazing back to life. The transport cleared the station's docking bay, and immediately the alien bioships began to move. Not toward her, around her. They formed a complex pattern that her pilot instincts recognized as both escort and cage. Then one of them spoke. Not through the radio, directly into her brain through the neural link. The voice was layered, harmonic, like a choir of wind chimes in a storm. Pilot Valdez. We have been waiting. Yeah, well, I've been busy. What do you want? Sanctuary. Safety. An end to the burning. Images flooded her mind, cities that looked like coral reefs, vast forests of living crystal, skies filled with creatures that were part plant, part animal, part something else entirely. Beautiful. And then the same scenes, but charred, broken, poisoned. Ships that looked distinctly human disappearing into jump points, leaving devastation behind. The Harvest Corporation, she whispered, understanding hitting her like a plasma bolt. You're refugees. We are the remnant. The last of our kind. Your people called us non-sentient when they claimed our worlds. Made us into resources to be extracted. Kira's throat tightened. She'd carried corporate troops during the border wars, helped establish mining operations on worlds that were supposedly uninhabited. She'd never questioned the orders, never asked why some planets seemed to scream when they were strip-mined. Why me? Why my call sign? You were there. At the Titan Nebula. When your squadron tried to stop the Harvest fleet. The memory hit her like decompression, her squad leader's face when he realized what they were really protecting, the way he'd ordered them to break formation, to try to stop the corporate ships from glassing another world. The plasma fire that had killed everyone but her. We remember, the alien voice continued. Some of your kind chose to resist. We honor that choice. Around her, the bioships were moving away from Luna Station, and Kira realized she was being given a choice. Follow them into the black, or return to her coffee shop and pretend this conversation never happened. The corporations will hunt you, she said. They don't like loose ends. Then help us disappear. Kira looked back at Luna Station, at the life she'd built in the shadows of her guilt. Then she looked ahead, at the vast darkness between stars where maybe, just maybe, she could do something that mattered. All right, she said, adjusting course to follow the bioships into the black. Let's go make some very expensive enemies. Behind her, Luna Station's communications array lit up with angry demands for her return. Kira switched it off and smiled for the first time in 5 years. She was done hiding. Done serving coffee to people who'd never question where their comfortable lives came from. She was going to disappear a species of refugees so thoroughly that the corporations would never find them. And maybe, in the process, she'd finally find her way home. The bioships sang around her as they jumped into the darkness between stars, and Kira Valdez remembered why she'd learned to fly in the first place, not to serve power, but to be free.